Welcome back to Medicine Deconstructed. I'm your host, Dr. J. Rutland. You know what most people don't realize is right before the SARS-CoV-2 pandemic started, there was actually a disease process that was becoming endemic in the United States. It's called e-valley, e-cigarette, or vaping-associated lung injury. And what that process led to was an extreme amount of inflammation in the lung. Let's fast forward a couple years from then to right now.
Here in Santa Ana, it is time to fight back against those predatory practices and move to prohibit the sale of flavored tobacco.
Why is that important? Well, when you look at the flavors of tobacco that are created, Jolly Rancher grape, Kool-Aid, who are we targeting there? We're targeting kids. And kids are vaping and smoking more and more. To take this even a step further, when you look at the menthol flavoring of cigarettes, 80% of African Americans, people like me, who smoke menthols. Why?
There's only one way to play it. Play it cool.
And when that phrase accompanies a magnificent photography like this.
That's the menthol brand. Oh, tasteless. Yes, quite cool.
It is the only product on the market, with possible exception of guns, that will kill you when used as directed.
It was free. I'm being honest with you. It was a free 5-pack cigarettes that was, ooh, I'm a kid.
I've been smoking cigarettes since I was 14, and I'm 22 now, and I think that's too long.
And from there, you hooked.
And so I got to sit down with the mayor of Santa Ana and the pro tem of Santa Ana to discuss the possible ordinance, and more importantly, to discuss the significance of flavored tobacco products and the disease they lead to in society.
So my name is Phil Becerra. I'm the Mayor Pro Tem here for the city of Santa Ana.
I'm Vicente Sarmiento, Mayor of the city of Santa Ana.
Can you update us to what is going on in Santa Ana?
What we're working on as far as limiting and eliminating access to flavored tobacco to kids.
As a government made by the people and for the people, listen to the wishes of the people and the sale of flavored tobacco in Santa Ana.
I strongly urge you to end the sale of flavored tobacco in Santa Ana.
I strongly urge you to end the sale of flavored tobacco products in Santa Ana.
So you guys have a lot of discussion. Correct. And one of the most recent discussions you guys have had is regarding banning the flavors of tobacco.
The ban was brought forth by some of my colleagues.
I wanted to propose this because it is a matter of life and death.
We will not partake in proliferating the sale of these flavored tobacco products. The United States has said we will not allow tobacco companies which spend billions of dollars over decades lying to the American public.
I believe nicotine is not addictive.
Then advertising to children and young people with Camel. I think we all grew up with cartoons on tobacco products.
Proof that cigarette advertising is harmful to young people. Children as young as 3 associate the cartoon character with cigarettes. 6-year-olds recognize him almost as readily as Mickey Mouse.
Similarly, there are many lawsuits against Juul and these other e-cigarette companies.
And have kids doing this and being introduced to the product because it tastes like a Jolly Rancher, it's awful.
To sit here and say that we're okay with anybody selling flavored tobacco, especially as we know it gets into the hands of children, right, which then leads to a gateway to smoking and other activities, I think for us, at least in my opinion, it was a low-hanging fruit.
Santa Ana especially, right, because it's a community of color.
Yeah.
The vaping has just been off the charts harmful.
80% of our residents are Latino. 50% of them are foreign-born. We've got one of the youngest communities in the country. You know, we have a median age of about 27, 28 years old, so it's an extremely young community. So we have a lot of kids who unfortunately have unnecessary access to that. And, parents' needs. For myself, as a parent of a 16-year-old daughter.
Tengo 3 hijos. También yo tengo 2 adolescentes.
I have several nieces and nephews who are exposed to flavored tobacco.
Y no quiero que estén expuestos al tabaco de sabores. Lo vean como un modo normal de vida.
Her addiction started in middle school. An 11, 12-year-old girl already having that state of an addiction is horrifying.
I've been offered multiple times. All they tell me is, don't worry about it. It tastes just like candy.
Cigarrillos mentolados hacen que sean más difícil de dejar de fumar.
We don't have outlets sometimes to deal with negative emotions.
Las compañías del tabaco quieren explotar a personas vulnerables.
We are most vulnerable to falling into substance abuse. I urge you to think about the very real harm that these products are doing to our community and the kids of Santa Ana. So many young lives have been wasted. They fall and prey, and there's no going back.
El tabaco mata.
In fact, before the pandemic started, we had a little epidemic of what's called e-cigarette induced or vaping induced associated lung injury. We had lung injury secondary to vaping. People have totally forgotten about this. 80% of these people were under the age of 35. We're developing significant inflammation and pulmonary fibrosis secondary to the presence of these devices all across the country. Right from 2017 to 2018, you had an 80% increase in vaping use amongst high schoolers. Ridiculous.
Pretty much as soon as I got to the hospital, they put me in the ambulance and sent me to another one. I don't really remember much, but I did have to be put on life support. I've been in the hospital for 2 weeks, and I have a very long road of recovery ahead of me.
Every flavor, the way it combusts, you get different particles.
I mean, that's a key word. Combustible devices blow up. Right. I mean, it's just like when you're at home and you hear a backfire from a car, right? Except in that instance, it's backfiring in somebody's face. Right. So, I mean, not only are you inhaling it, you're not seeing the damage that you're causing to your lungs, but also just the fact that you could physically blow up your face. I mean, I know both my parents smoked. And, you know, for them, they started off when they were young. You know, the doctor would come on TV with a cigarette in his hand.
More doctors smoke Camel.
You know, it was cool to smoke.
Cool, clean smoking pleasure. Light up a Newport.
Come to Marlboro country.
I think over time, society has collectively corrected that and has put such a negative connotation towards smoking. And so, okay, well, maybe we can't make it look as cool. Well, heck, well, we have to appeal to something else, and it's the taste.
And I can remember when I was younger, my dad, my mom, they smoked menthols. I just remember Salem Lights, the green cigarette packet, because I would actually go in the store and grab it for them, you know, like, give me a pack of cigarettes. And I knew, and it was menthol. And it's like I'm sitting here thinking about it right now, just realizing, like, damn, like that's what we were targeted for, that, and that's what black people predominantly smoke. And it's an issue because we already don't have access to health care, and now to target this single-handed, most preventable cause of death, now to just give it to us and say, here you go, smoke these, it's menthol, it tastes good. Especially now knowing that lung cancer is more likely to kill a black man than it is a white man. Like, I'm just kind of like, it's a little ridiculous to me.
I agree. I mean, I see a lot of that, and not just tobacco, but in, you know, look, every other industry, I think that is out there. Unfortunately, there's a disparate treatment.
To target a certain neighborhood, I think, you know, the idea is that attention, right? They're focusing on certain things. Who do they think they can get to? You know, for me, as someone that's half white, half Filipino, you know, nobody's targeting me for menthol cigarettes, right?
I've got 2 daughters as well. And for me, as a practicing pulmonary critical care physician, I know the reasons why not to do it. What would be a counter argument against banning all flavors, period, end of story?
Things that are cultural.
You had folks that were contacted by certain interest groups.
I did meet with advocates discussing the issue of hookah.
They made certain points to them that I'd like to believe either confused them, gave them some pause to think that maybe a ban wouldn't be the right course of action to take.
You know, I do know that also the city bans hookah parlors, which could arguably be said is also part of our racist history here.
In 1860, slave owners like R.J. Reynolds' dad used slaves like my great-grandfather to pick tobacco. I understand the city council's desire to make some exemptions for flavored tobacco, but the flavor is the point. They want to get our kids hooked to the minty flavors, to the fruity flavors, so that just like they hooked generations of Americans with free tobacco in World War II, they can continue to hook our children into tobacco slavery.
Hi, my name is George Johnson. I'm a founding member of the National Hookah Community Association, a grassroots organization dedicated to preserving the rich cultural tradition of hookah smoking. We have worked with many municipalities in drafting exemptions for hookah. We had an exemption made on SB 793 on the state level, as well as SB 38. I was on the tail end of smoking being cool. It took my own peer group saying, "You smell like an ashtray and you're not cute, and I'm not going to kiss you too," for us to all say, okay, you know what, I don't want to smoke anymore. And that's what's going to have to happen with vaping.
As someone who grew up with asthma, because smoking is incredibly prevalent in the Vietnamese American community, you would be hard pressed to find a Vietnamese American male who's an adult who doesn't smoke. And part of that is because of the way colonization has happened, capitalism's happened. So I'm particularly sensitive to that issue.
It isn't about cultural insensitivity or anything along those lines. And people keep saying hookah. People are led to believe that it's a less dangerous product, but the impacts are dangerous.
Even if you were to eliminate that practice from the culture, theoretically speaking, would be healthier.
Listening to healthcare professionals is important. Right. Listening to folks who have this as a priority in their culture, to say, I'm not even going to listen to you, right, is also disrespectful to many of us who are cultures of color.
What I think is a little bit disrespectful is when I go into an African-American neighborhood, I see advertisements for tobacco products all over the place. I consider that a little bit disrespectful in terms of community, right? And in terms of promoting public health. When you guys are talking about this policy, when you guys are having these discussions about, honestly, lung disease, are physicians in this room, or is it all just policymakers?
Look, I listen to anybody who has a good, credible argument to make, right? The more knowledgeable the source, the better. I don't think there's anybody who has a, healthcare related background on the city council. So, but again, we understand the baseline concern, which is kids shouldn't have access to tobacco, and especially when you have an industry that's catering and trying to attract this product to kids. Nobody wants that.
It was brought to us as a ban, and as I said during the deliberations, I said, well, if we're being presented with the ban, let's either thumbs up or thumbs down on the ban. Science is the science. If it says it is what it is, right? Gravity is real. We're not going to walk off a roof and go, I don't know, depends on what state you're in. Right. It is what it is. You follow the science, and yet here we are debating it. I feel blessed to be in the role that I'm in, because at least hopefully we can move the needle in the right direction, at least in one city, and which, by the way, we are in the capital of Orange County, so this is a great place to start, if anywhere.
100% agree, and I think it's very important for physicians and people who represent health to have conversations with policy experts to be able to push public health decisions that are positive forward.
This is not a city that disregards its concerns from the most vulnerable, not just people of color, but people who are low income.
Right. I want to applaud policymakers here in Santa Ana in regards to moving forward with this and trying to ban tobacco flavorings, because I do think it's important.
Any sort of way we can do that, hopefully that's what this ban will eventually accomplish.
Agreed. Thanks for joining today's episode of Medicine Deconstructed. I really appreciate you guys being here and listening to the conversation that I got to have with the mayor and the Mayor Pro Tem of Santa Ana. We have to understand the significance of flavored tobacco products. We know that the selling of any flavored tobacco product is going to lead to more youth getting a hold of these products and becoming addicted to nicotine. We already know that people who do use e-cigarettes are more likely to smoke a regular cigarette. We do not want this to happen in the youth. We do not want this to become commonplace. We do not want this to be as cool as it's perceived to be, because it is not. We hope that people, along with the American Lung Association, continue to support the ban of selling of any flavored tobacco product. Thanks for being here. We're just here to arm you with information. Please come back next time for some more ammunition.